Hello everyone, welcome to Step 2 Engineer channel. Today, we'll be sharing a topic that continues from what we discussed in the previous section. In the previous sections, we discussed in detail the responsibilities of each party involved in constructing a heat exchanger or pressure vessel. Specifically, we covered the duties of the parties working on the work floor and their roles in the process. Therefore, each party must have a 100% clear understanding of their area and work with full accountability and responsibility for their duties. So, what happens is, for example, the end user cannot fully understand every responsibility of the subcontractor or the main contractor. Similarly, the main contractor cannot know the subcontractor's work as thoroughly as the subcontractor does. Therefore, each party must take full responsibility for their assigned tasks. Once their work is complete, they must hand over their responsibilities and deliver the work to the customer who assigned it to them. For the main contractor, when it comes to accepting work from the subcontractor, they must evaluate whether the work meets the agreed-upon criteria. This involves verifying that the work aligns with the design codes, standards, and specifications that were agreed upon at the start of the project. If the work complies with these requirements, the main contractor can take responsibility, sign off with satisfaction, and officially accept the work. So, what happens is that it's not just large companies but also small companies that have to work according to these standards. However, over time, as work progresses continuously, larger companies tend to take on bigger and more complex projects compared to smaller companies. So, in addition to the necessary codes and standards, they also incorporate lessons learned and experiences from previous projects. The mistakes made in earlier jobs are used as valuable feedback to avoid repeating them in future projects. These lessons are integrated into the specifications for the new jobs to ensure higher accuracy and better performance. At this point, by gradually incorporating those lessons and improving the processes, the issues faced by the workers can be reduced over time. This helps in minimizing mistakes and enhancing the overall quality of the work. At that point, the specification becomes important. At that point, the revision number section appears in the specification. After this, I will explain the topic of the revision number separately. So, for now, large companies are primarily the ones who write the specifications. Small companies are often not built with many engineers. Instead, they typically rely on the specifications of larger companies, using those as a foundation to create their own new, customized specifications that suit their needs. In our current field, such as point angle, when constructing heat exchangers or pressure vessels, globally renowned companies like Shell, TotalEMP, and Petronas develop their own specifications independently. As for many other smaller companies, they often adapt the specifications of these larger companies, making adjustments and adding the necessary details to create their own customized specifications. That is about specifications. Next, I will continue to explain about revision numbers in detail later. Thank you. Now, the topic I want to discuss is about the deviation list. The deviation list refers to the details that come into play when a client or customer assigns work to a subcontractor or contractor. At that time, they specify whether the work can be done according to a certain specification or code and assign the task based on that agreement. At that point, let's assume you are in the position of a subcontractor. Before your client assigns the work, they ask, "Can you perform the work according to our specifications?" This question comes even before they officially hand over the task. At that point, the responsibility of the subcontractor is to thoroughly review and understand all the specification datasheets provided by the client. The subcontractor must ensure that they fully comprehend every detail of the specifications. When there are certain aspects of the specifications that cannot be followed exactly, the subcontractor should inform the client, saying, "We are unable to carry out these tasks as per the specifications." In some cases, there may be alternative methods that have worked in previous projects. In such situations, the subcontractor would create a deviation list. This list typically includes the points where the work will differ from the original specification. Most of the time, this deviation list is included as part of the documents submitted to the client. For example, in the case of a heat exchanger, when welding the tube to the tube sheet, the client company's specification may state that the tube protrusion should extend 3 mm beyond the tube's outer surface before welding it to the tube sheet. This means that the tube should stick out 3 mm before the welding process can begin, as specified by the client's guidelines. However, if your welding machine produces a protrusion greater than 1 mm, the excess material may overheat and melt, causing issues like warping or weakening the weld. However, if your welding machine produces a protrusion greater than 1 mm and the excess material might overheat and melt, and if your machine cannot achieve the 3 mm protrusion without issues, in such a case, what should be done? In previous projects, this issue was resolved by submitting a deviation list. In the deviation list, you would state that for the tube-to-tube sheet welding, you cannot follow the 3 mm protrusion specification exactly, and instead, you propose to deviate and use a 1 mm protrusion. Since it was produced in such a way 1 mm, previous projects referenced this same method and worked well. The manufacturing was done in the same way, and the client accepted it. Currently, the work is running smoothly. After referencing this approach, I wanted to deviate, so I prepared the deviation list and submitted it before the project was finalized. When uploaded, the customer's engineer team reviews it. Sometimes, they accept it. Sometimes, they don't accept the work due to their precise requirements. For example, they insist that the welding must strictly follow the 3 mm exclusion. If that isn't achievable, they refuse to provide the job. In such situations, what we do is consult a welding specialist company that's more skilled than us in production welding. We send an inquiry to see if they can handle the welding as per the required specifications. Then, we subcontract the work to them. They respond saying, "We can perform the welding, and we will follow this procedure to complete the task," and then propose their approach to us. The proposed document they send is received, and after reviewing it, if the customer comments that it's not acceptable, we respond accordingly. We propose combining the 3 mm production welding process but clarify that it will be subcontracted. Along with this, we include the welding procedures from the subcontractor's proposed document, detailing the processes, and then resubmit it to the client for approval. At that point, the client's engineering team reviews it again. If they accept, they respond with, "Okay, we approve it as is." They confirm that everything can be combined according to the specifications. If the pricing is agreeable, they will assign the job to us. This is essentially the procedure for handling the deviation list.